All right, everybody, welcome to our latest MX Vice SMX Review Show podcast as we talk all things A2 Supercross from what was a wild night of action. Thank you for everyone for listening and supporting the site. Firstly, we really appreciate it. Before we get started, we'd first like to thank the sponsors in Golf Racing, Fuels, Yamaha, Fly Racing, Monster Energy, Fox, Parts Europe, Scott, Bell Helmets, Acerbis, AS3 Performance, Kawasaki UK, KTM UK, O'Neill, Whole Shot Motorhomes, and Even Strokes for all their incredible support, as without them, none of this would be possible. All right, for this one, we're doing another Whiskey Throttle times MX Vice collab, as I'm joined by Whiskey Throttle lads, Jeff Beaver and the boss Ping. So how's life, and thanks for joining us?
Hey boys, good to be here. It's good. I'm wondering how the hell you guys got so many sponsors, man. I got to do what you guys are doing.
Oh, I think you guys are doing a pretty good job too, but yeah, that's all James. James is working hard in the background, the boss man there. So we keep things pushing 2024, hopefully, mate. But you guys seem to be holding your own.
Yeah, it's good. We're with the help of guys like Jeff, we put together a really cool team, and we were from where we were 6 months ago to now. It's a completely different deal, and we're pouring rocket fuel on this thing, so it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome, and you're good too, Jeff.
Yeah, man. I mean, hey, we're out here at Paula and testing an awesome bike today. It feels like summertime out here. It's about probably 82, 83 degrees Fahrenheit. It's Greg's riding, Ping's directing traffic, and just filming and having a great day. I got a couple days off, and then I head to Detroit Thursday, come back, and then I'll go to Glendale with everybody, and then I'm out for a couple months.
Yeah, cool, mate. Sounds like the schedule's good, and you guys definitely got boots on the ground at the races, so the content's been great. So keep that up. And also for this one, we're joined by MX Vice tester Brad Wheeler. So how's life? And thanks for joining us on this one too, mate.
Yeah, no, good to be on. Yeah, we're flat out. We're actually going to get out on the bike Sunday. It's, I think, what did you say, Jess? About 82 there. It's about 8-2 here. It's pretty fresh.
Did you say 8-2?
Yeah, about 8-2 degrees, give or take. But yeah, that's why we have coats in this country. We'll be all right. But yeah, hopefully going to test the FMF system on the YZ450. And the Bell Moto 10 as well, put that through its paces. So we've hopefully in the next week or two there should be a few more articles up on MX Vice. So stay tuned for that. And I mean, companies, they're flooding us with stuff. So plenty of things to get through throughout the year, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's really cool, mate. Great to see all the stuff you're doing and the Rennen gear that you got sent. That's pretty trick for sure. So we look forward to all of that coming out on MX Vice. So obviously onto the racing now, lads. We'll start with the Whiskey Throttle boys. You're obviously at A2. How was it from your perspective? So much going on in those Triple Crowns. It sort of goes by in an instant, it seems, but the track was breaking down. There was a lot of different things to navigate, different sections, big ruts, sort of ledges on jumps. It was getting pretty deteriorated by the end there. So your thoughts on it all, and just how good was Cooper Webb to grind that one out? And it's pretty ominous when he gets that confidence and gets that momentum before we head east, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a crazy night. There was so much going on between the three main events in each class. Plus you had the Futures race, which was like maybe the best race of the night. And you had Kiwi rider, which I don't know how you Aussies feel about the Kiwis. I can't tell if you guys love them or hate them.
Nah, they're pretty good.
That's Ben Townley's kid that he's been telling me about for years, and damn if he wasn't right. That kid was buttery smooth, and I think he cemented his future here in the sport. So that was rad. Track was super gnarly. The whoops, I don't think I've ever seen whoops get that broken down. Where it gave guys that bit hard of a time all night long. And I would say for me, kind of just quickly to recap the weekend, it's like, the mud races kind of suck to watch, but if you look at what they've done to the points, man, everything is so tight. It really kind of, if anybody would have maybe started building momentum those first few rounds, they just couldn't, right? I mean, we've had 4 different rounds and 4 different overall winners in both classes. And I don't know if that's ever happened before, but there's a lot of depth in the class, and especially that 450 class. And man, I think gambling on anybody right now is just that. It's a gamble. I mean, I would have said Jet before the season started was probably the man. And I don't know. I think he's a little rattled at this point. I'm not saying he's not going to come back and win, but you got Eli building momentum, Chase building momentum, Webb building momentum, Anderson building momentum. Like, holy crap.
AB.
AP, how can you have this many guys all trending in the same direction? Someone's got to get fifth and sixth, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy. You want to carry on with that one, Jeff? Your thoughts from A2 and just being there, mate? It was a pretty cool event, obviously. And how was the Ghostbusters stuff? That was something pretty cool the TLD guys did as well.
Yeah, that was cool. Actually, walking up and seeing the car that was in the movies when we were kids. It's, I mean, you look inside, the thing's a bucket inside, but it's pretty cool looking at it on the outside and watching Bam Bam come down and ride off and open ceremonies was pretty cool. But I think my biggest takeaway was I was stoked on the Futures race. I was sitting there watching it with Nick Way, and I was just like, man, that Davies kid, he's real quiet on the bike. And he kind of looked at me weird, and I go, well, look at him when everybody would come into those second set of whoops where Eli was doing the double wheel tap. He was barely on the gas, and he was just floating through everything. He was so super smooth, and like Towers was kind of just all over the place and just hammering to kind of keep up with him. And that Davies kid, I've seen him ride out at Elsinore at the Supercross track and at Hemet, and he looked pretty good. But the other night, he was on another level. Just it's weird. His confidence just seemed to be like he didn't get bothered by any of it. He was just super quiet. He wasn't nervous. He was just riding his laps, and that race was awesome to watch. You know, me and Ping watched all the racing from the floor, and so you couldn't see some of the stuff in the back, but we have the big jumbotrons to kind of track it when it went away from us. But we were right there in that where they're going through both whoop sections, and it was just amazing how smooth that kid was through that and his line choices. It was pretty cool, and it was fun to see how on the ball Anderson was. I really liked watching him ride, and Coop. I called it at the top of the tunnel. I seen Bobby Reagan. Me and Ping were walking down there, and I said, Coop's gonna do it tonight. And of course, Bobby got that big old smile he always gets. And hell, I didn't look like an idiot at the end of the night. I was right, so that was kind of cool. So it was a fun night, definitely fun.
Yeah, I don't really know much of much about the amateur scene in America. You just kind of hear the names sort of thrown out in the Supercross and interviews and what have you. But yeah, they definitely the front two definitely were impressive. Like they looked smooth, didn't look out of place at all. Yeah, like you said, that second whip section was just causing havoc all night for like the top guys, and yet he was just nothing spectacular, just hitting smart every lap through there, keeping it smooth. But it almost seems like that's when the track gets that bad and the whoops break down that much, you're almost better off just on the power, just like a higher gear. Nothing, you don't need to over rev the bike, just get through there clean and simple every lap rather than trying to skim through them. Maybe you might gain a quarter of a second, half a second, but then you end up doing something like Jet did where he didn't need to do that. You just just make sure you get through there at a decent rate every lap in, lap out. And yeah, I mean, fair play to them. They crushed it.
Yeah, impressive stuff for sure. And those Kiwis, there's not many of them, and same with the Aussies, but they're certainly fast. And when they go over, they're kind of all in because it's a big step moving from Australia and New Zealand to racing in America or Europe. So we sort of wish them all the success there. And it's a pretty impressive effort beating someone like Towers on a bike. They star Yamaha, and I think he's 19, and Cole Davies is only 16. So it's a pretty impressive effort. I guess something the Star team, and Towers obviously was frustrated afterwards, he said. So it's pretty cool to see that sort of thing and all the young up and comers. And just guys, before we get on to some more racing, what is your take on the futures? And obviously they're doing the combines and they're trying to bridge that gap between the sort of amateur and professional racing like the MXGP have done so well with the EMX classes. So just your take on how they're introducing these things over the last couple of years and how good it is for the kids racing on the big stage under the big lights with the pressure of having things like the crowd. So would love your thoughts on it too.
Yeah, it's so amazing. I think they recognize that our amateur racing scene here in the U.S. is lacking. When Jet and Hunter Lawrence were on the Whiskey Throttle show, Dazzy actually came on and said as much. He goes, if they didn't move Jet up into the pro class when they did, he goes, we were going to send him back to Europe because he was actually getting worse that year here, trying to, going through our amateur national program. And, they wanted more racing. They wanted just different format. Over here, the amateurs don't do a ton of racing. They go to these camps. They ride day in and day out and kind of get into this routine, and they only race 4 or 5 times a year. They just go to these big events, and then that's where you show out, and then that's it. And it's hard to improve your racecraft when you're not racing that much. So I think it's great what they're doing. I was having a chat with Jimmy Button about, as we were watching the Futures practice go on, I said, man, Jimmy, can you imagine how much better we would have been as riders if we had this opportunity at 15, 16, 17? And he laughed. He goes, dude, the first time I ever got on a real Supercross track was in 1990 when I showed up to Anaheim 1 and rolled out for the first practice. There wasn't Supercross tracks to practice on, and I said, yeah, well, I said, pretty much same here. I would sneak on to Yamaha's old test track out at De Anza Raceway, if you've heard of that. It was overgrown with weeds, and Yamaha hadn't been there in a decade, but the track, was still there, little remains of it, and that was what we rode on. That was the best we could do. So it's just crazy what these kids are able to get onto now. And when I heard Gavin Towers, I know he was frustrated he didn't win, and I think Cole Davies shocked him. He was so smooth and calm. He never got rattled, and you could see Towers just kind of frantic. And but I will say this about Gavin Towers, and I don't even know him. I've never met him. But I watched his interview after the race, and although he was disappointed, and he said as much, man, that kid was more poised and better spoken than most of the pros that night on the podium. So I'm super optimistic about kind of the future of the sport and this futures program and the combine thing they're doing outdoors. I think it's exactly what we needed over here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my thought on it is, one, the racing, the gate drops, that helps a lot, but also it gets these kids used to the schedule. I mean, that schedule is gnarly, and they don't run it in amateur, so it gives them a chance to do that, and it lets them get their personality out there and get in front of the media. I mean, there was a funny video of Cooper Webb talking to the guys about, hey, there's always a camera on you and this and that, and you got to watch what you say. And then he goes, first time I went to Anaheim, I shit myself, so I thought it was funny as hell, He's like telling them to watch what they say, and then he's like, I shit myself, so that's pretty damn funny, but they get coaching on media and stuff like that. And that'll all help build their brand with, obviously we know how important social media is and how much, look at Deegan. The kid is probably making a ton off just his YouTube and all that stuff on top of his salary and race bonuses. There's big money to be had, and the kids that are smart are going to hone in on that. And one of the kids I think is really going to do well is Casey Cochran, and his shoulder's still kind of goofed up, so he didn't race the futures this weekend, but that kid is straight comedy. When you guys see him and you see him get an interview, that kid is classic. He's going to be so fun on the podium, and so it's really good because it'll allow them to bring out their personalities earlier, and then you're not going to get these robots on the stage and not all nervous in the service when they finally get to the big show and actually hit a podium, so there's a lot of good things besides the gate drops that it does for them. It gets them used to the schedule and gets them used to people in their face and all that kind of stuff. I think the whole thing's rad.
Well, I'll just add one more thing to that. And Jeff, you've now seen it going down on the floor and the lights on and the stadium completely packed full of people. As a kid, it's one thing to be down there just watching, but when you're rolling to that line and you're supposed to be focusing on riding, and you look up and there's 50,000 people and lights shining on you, and like you feel like everyone's staring at you, even if they aren't. That is very tough to block out initially. That takes some practice, and these kids are getting that practice now, so that when they actually do move up and start racing professionally, they're going to be a little more used to it. And while it is a little dangerous to put them on a track, I think getting them comfortable with that will make them safer when they step into the professional ranks and actually have to do it as a job.
Yeah, that's absolutely well said. Obviously, getting them exposed to uncomfortable and unfamiliar situations. And a lot of them find out if they rise to the occasions or they feel that weight of expectation and pressure. So, yeah, you just got to do it to see how you go and see how you adapt to it. And on the topic of personalities and that are really sort of elevating the sport and elevating the coverage around it, we'll start with you, Brad, on this one. Jason Anderson obviously rode so well. Pace was mega in the third one and the second one especially. And then just the way he carved through the pack in the third one was really impressive after that mistake at the start. But he was really looking like like a sort of transformed rider this season. Really happy with the bike, the package, more balanced, stable. He feels confident pushing, and it's great to see sort of the Jason of old with that intensity, aggression, jersey hanging out. So that was pretty epic. And then obviously the Jet Lawrence booze, which will be great for you guys to talk on from whiskey at the race afterwards. But yeah, start with you on Jason Anderson and Jet, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, Jason, they've got that new Kawasaki 450 this year, and he looks like he's just gelled with it. He looks like the Jason that we saw in 2022 that was just rattling off wins. Yeah, looks really comfortable. Obviously got that penalty in the third race for crashing before the whoops, and then just up the side of the whoops. So just, I mean, he wasn't racing up the side of the whoops, but he was definitely not just coasting up there. And there was really no need for him to do that. It was he had plenty of space to get back in the track and sort of go up through the whoops, which is, it's not really his first offence, which is why I think it maybe looks a little bit more like a pattern. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have said like he wasn't making up time going up the side of the track, but I mean, the track's the track. You need to ride it on the track. Like, if you could just say, well, I'll just ride down the side of this rhythm section. I'm not going any faster than what I would if I was going down it, but that's not really how the game works. So yeah, I don't really have a problem with the penalty. He just needs to realise that the track limits are the track limits. You don't just get to ride up the side of the whoops because you crashed 5 meters before them. It's just not how it works. But yeah, he looks a lot more comfortable. The second race was really impressive. Just got the start, had his head down, hit his marks, and just, no one had anything for him. Pretty much the same as Chase in the first race and Eli in the third race. They just got out front, hitting their lines, didn't worry about what was going on behind them, and just checked out. And I think they've got Jet on the ropes at the moment. He looks like he's flustered. He's making little mistakes. I mean, he's obviously a rookie to the 450 Supercross, so it's, as you'd expect, it's kind of the rookie mistakes that we thought we might see in the Nationals last year. But they seem to be creeping through a little bit more and more. Just like in the whoops in that last race, like I had second sewn up. Last lap, there was no need to try and skim through the whoops when they're that sketchy. Was not going to gain anything for it. It's not like he was right on Toma's rear wheel, and it bit him. But I'd imagine he's learned from it. I'd imagine Dazzy gave his head a bit of a wobbling when he got back to the track. So I mean, I think it's still pretty clear that Jet's he's arguably still the best guy. He seems to be the only one that can really race through the pack and actually overtake those top guys. Whereas sort of Jason and Eli and Coop, they seem to stall out a little bit around that top five. He seems to still be able to push his way into it, which is promising if you're Jet. But I think obviously Detroit this weekend, hopefully you can have a bit of a reset moving east, and I think it's just going to take another good start like you got A1 and get the train rolling the right way again.
Yeah, thoughts, lads, on Jet and Jason Anderson's weekend?
Kind of echo a lot of Wheeler's sentiments there. It's good to see Jason back, and something I'd be curious about is just mentally how hard it is when you aren't gelling with the bike like he was like last year. How hard is that to still go out and grind every day knowing you're going to go to the race and it's not going to probably go great. Versus now you see him again, just back to the Jason of old, kind of hammering. I mean, he was making passes like pretty impressive. I would say he and Jet for sure were the two guys that were driving through the pack better than anybody. And so, like I said, he's in that top 5 guys who right now have still a very clear shot at this title, and he's going to get more wins this year, all things equal. As far as Jet goes, I don't think we've seen even close to his best yet. When you consider he had a bad night, 2 crashes, and with a lap to go, still was second overall and would have had the points lead. And it's been 3 kind of rough rounds for him, right? So Jet's going to be just fine. I know that what I've seen of him at the practice track and what I hear from guys in Florida, Michael Byrne, I was talking to him this weekend, who works with them pretty closely. And he said, dude, if you would watch him ride during the week, he goes, we're all kind of like going, man, he gets to the race and he seems a lot more measured and just cautious, which is not kind of what I would say I've seen from the races. But he goes, no, he goes, if you watch him ride at home during the week, it's like watching a freaking video game. It's unbelievable what he does. So he goes, when he can get comfortable enough to have that show up at the races, he goes, it's over. Like, it's over. And I've seen glimpses of that days I've had at the Honda track where he's jumping things no one else is jumping, and he just looks like he's barely trying, but the lap times are incredible. So I think he's definitely getting knocked around. If you look at last summer, he really only had to contend with Chase. And Chase was, I think, mentally a little out of it. He had a concussion early on. I think he was just done with the Honda. And it's a lot easier to beat one guy than it is when you've got to race against 6, 7, 8, 9 really good guys and you start behind them and you've got to come through all those guys in Supercross. It's tougher. It's way more difficult than trying to just beat one really good guy at the Nationals. So I think looking at his perfect summer and going, oh, he's just going to kill everybody in Supercross, not a realistic expectation. Having said that, I still think Eli, Cooper, Chase, Jason, all of them, they better get him in check and keep him there, because he starts getting a little bit more confident here now that we're pretty much out of mud race territory. We might still have one or two, but most of the stadiums back east are covered, and it's going to be conditions that he would thrive in. And it wouldn't shock me at all to see him just go on a run and start reeling off wins.
You know, and I'll add to that, you know, I was sitting down at behind the start gate when they were doing opening ceremonies. I was standing there with this mechanic, and, you know, you heard the crowd kind of give him the business and all that stuff. And this mechanic just kind of taking it in stride. You know, he's a pretty calm, cool character. And I was like, oh man, I wonder how that's affecting Jet right now. And then a couple of minutes later, Jet comes running down the little lawn section there from the outfield to get on his bike, and he's laughing, just kind of, I couldn't really tell what he said, but he definitely wasn't bothered by it. He was just like, well, it is what it is. I'm going to go racing. He hopped on his bike, ripped out there for opening ceremonies. So it didn't seem to me at all like that bothered him. I think he was pretty good at letting it roll off his back. So I think once he just kind of figures a few things out, and like Dave says, when he gets into the stadiums, into those prime conditions, I think he's going to let loose and give everybody a hard time.
Yeah, totally agree. And obviously, Ping, I know you're a bit strapped for time, mate, but would love to hear your thoughts on the 250 East this weekend. Do a little preview. What are you looking forward to? Obviously, all the talks about Deegan. He's got that injury. How's he going to be? And then a lot of hype about Anstey and Faulkner flying at the test track. So a lot of stacked field talk, a lot of excitement to get sort of amped up about. When you look at the field, obviously, from a European perspective, it's pretty cool. Vial and Fares will be racing again. Obviously, Fares is new to Supercross, but yeah, showing what he can do in the past. And Vial had a pretty sort of rough go in Supercross, got it together a bit more outdoors. But then you got guys like McAdoo, Hammaker, Hymas. How's Enzo Lopes going to be? He's sort of battling an injury. Romano, Bennick. A lot of the chat's Bennick's absolutely flying. Swole on the Triumph. And then guys like Jet Reynolds, J. Martin Shock. So we love your thoughts before you have to go, mate, on that stuff. And maybe just give us a little insight on the Jet booing situation, because there's definitely a bit of animosity from the US fans for both Jet and Hunter, isn't there?
Well, you know, I hate the booing stuff. I know it happens. And I mean, if you go back and look at Ricky Carmichael, he got booed when he went to Honda. People thought he sold out for the money or something. The bottom line is, unfortunately, it's in people's human DNA to be jealous, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to that. Jet's a good-looking kid. He's incredibly talented. He's filthy rich. I mean, you know what I mean? He's got a lot going for him. And so I think at a point, you get to a certain level of success and people want to tear you down. I mean, it happened to Stewart. It happened to Ricky. You know, it's happened to a lot of the greats. If they start winning too much, people are rooting for someone to beat you. And I think everyone was there with Jet. They were tired of hearing about how good he was and tired of people talking about him. And this was just the, you know, sort of the segue they needed to start booing him. And it'll come around. You know what I mean? It'll come around. Chad Reed got booed early on. I mean, it's fine. And I'm pretty sure Jet's got the right people in his corner, whether that's Lars or whether it's Johnny O. I'm sure they're telling him, hey, dude, just blow it off. In a week or two, this will all blow over. You know, it'll be something else. Just let's stay focused on what the task is. So I hate the boos. I just don't think there's a lot of class in it. If you don't want to cheer for a guy, don't cheer. But I get it. It's part of being a fan, right? That's your voice you get to have. So anyway, I try to just stay out of it. As a media company, we've done our best to just say, nah, let's not touch it. I don't want to be caught up in all of the Kardashian bullshit, you know? So as far as 250 East goes, I'll be honest with you. It's a real crapshoot. There's so many unanswered questions about who's where. Hammaker, incredibly quick, but, you know, has had injury after injury after injury. Faulkner, same, right? McAdoo, same. A lot of injuries. Hymas, not really sure what to expect out of him. Same with Swole. How's that new Triumph going to be? Evan Ferry, really curious to see where he fits in. Who am I missing here? Pierce Brown. Again, injuries, and he's plenty fast, but where will he be? Like, who's going to kind of step in and be the guy? Bennett, we got no history to judge where he might be. It's one thing to be flying at the test track. It's another when you line up with 22 of the best guys. So we have heard good things from the Club MX guys that Cody Schock and Jet Reynolds are both riding great, as is J Mart. So that'll be a really interesting thing to see. Jet Reynolds has got more talent than he knows what to do with. He just never had any structure. He didn't really have a good work ethic, and they've put him in a situation where he doesn't have a choice but to work hard. And I think he's embracing it. You know, it took a little bit, but I think he's finally going, wow, this works. I get it. And so I think between he and Schock, those will be your two guys to kind of dark horses to keep an eye out for. And then as far as Deegan goes, who knows? Question mark, you know, he could come out and just crush everybody, or that risk could be a problem all year. Who knows? They're not going to say, right? They're going to keep that injury, the severity of it, way, way under wraps. So you just got to let the race happen, and then we'll know a lot more after next weekend. But that's what's great about having a split 250 series. It's like we get a whole new fresh start with a whole fresh group of guys. So I'm as excited as you guys are to see what happens.
Yeah, and obviously moving on to you now, Brad, just obviously the Anstey talk being a Brit, and obviously the UK lad, he's won WSX, he's won the Aussie Supercross, which was, he's an immaculate Supercross only rider now, isn't he? So experienced, got so much talent, he's great in the whoops. And obviously he's had that good chunk of pre-season. He's kind of never really sort of stopped at Supercross for the last few months with doing all these extra series. So I guess how excited are you for the 250 East, Brad, and just seeing how Anstey goes too? Because all the reports are that he's absolutely flying.
Yeah, I've heard he's absolutely ripping. So it should be pretty good. I mean, he started the season off pretty spectacularly last year with 2 back-to-back podiums. So obviously Hunter's vacated the class. So, yeah, I mean, there's no reason why he's not going to be a podium threat every week. And he looked really good throughout the whole WSX and the Australian Championship. Really was the best guy. Obviously didn't have like the likes of Faulkner and like all the Deegans and all that there, but you could just see that he had confidence. He was good in the whoops, like really the best guy through the whoops. Looked really racy, really comfortable on his bike. And yeah, I think he's going to shock a lot of guys. I think Deegan's probably the favourite heading in. Rightly so. I mean, he had a great rookie year. He's obviously the SMX champion. But yeah, I think Anstey, another year on that team. It's the same bike. They haven't got anything, worry about any new parts or anything like that. And yeah, his experience, I think he's going to shock a few people. But I mean, there's some pretty decent guys on the East Coast. I mean, Pierce Brown's fast, McAdoo, Faulkner are both quick. I mean, McAdoo's kind of really one of the few people this really took it to Jet when he was on the 250. Same with Faulkner, is another one that one of the few that managed to sneak a win past yet on the 250. But yeah, they just need to keep it rubber side down. But that seems to be the trend in the 250 class, is keep the wheels the right way up, and there should be some pretty spectacular racing. I'm intrigued to see how the Triumph does. Obviously, Jalik's not a super strong Supercross rider, and Evan Ferry is obviously a rookie, but it should be pretty. It's obviously going to be great to see another bike out there. Just another bike on the track is going to be awesome. And Tom Vial's second year over here, he had some really strong rides. Obviously, his first race last year, he had third, pretty much sewn up, and just a silly little mistake in a corner. So it'd be interesting to see what he can do. He's had a lot more time to prepare this year. Another year under his belt in America. So I think he's going to come out swinging as well. It wouldn't surprise me if we see him on the podium in the first.
Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to with you guys in America. Just with the 250 class, there's so much chat about, various people in America and organizations or whatever wanting to make that one class. But it was an interesting point you made, how it sort of gives it a bit of a refresh and a recalibrate, separating those classes. And it's so unpredictable, that 250 racing. There's just not that maturity if they're racing it. They're all finding things out. They're sort of just all hell for leather. So would love your guys' take on that too.
Yeah, let me jump in here before Brad gets mad at me. I didn't mean to leave Max Anstey out. He is definitely a contender. And we love Max. He's maybe my favorite interview. He's just so open, and he's got a great sense of humor. So I'm pulling for Max, and Vial too. I left him out. Nothing intentional. There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys who could step up and be on the box, or, sometimes you can even do all the work and prep, and you think, all right, I'm ready to go. And you go there and shit goes sideways, and all of a sudden the year just goes pear-shaped. I mean, I've had it happen. And so you just never know. That's what's cool about it. And to your point, and I argue this all the time, McGrath took a shot at me even last week on some podcast he did about how I spent my whole time in the 125 class. Well, and is it fair that a kid like Julian Beaumer has to race against 30-year-old guys, RJ Hampshire and Jordan Smith, who have kids and, whatever? It's like, well, the 250 class has evolved. It used to be just a stepping stone class that you got up into the 250 class from, and it's sort of become its own thing. And there's these calls for it to be, just because it has become its own thing, to be just one series. It's like, well, you're going to cut half of the rides off then. Pro Circuit won't have 4 guys in the 250 class if it's a season-long deal. They're going to at least drop one of them, right? So do you really want to do that? And if you force these riders to move out, and go back to the old point-out rule that used to be really strict, Buddy Antonez, Denny Stevenson, all these guys, they got pushed up and basically pushed out of the sport because they weren't ready. And so even today, it's the same as it was in the 90s. The only way you get a 250 factory ride or a 450 factory ride now is by winning a 250 title. And so until you do, you can roll the dice and try to go become a privateer in the big class. And I can name 2 people that's worked out for. That's Nick Way and Weston Pike. And I don't know of anybody else that's really moved up on their own accord or been pointed out and then as a privateer worked their way back into a factory position. Heath Voss, maybe. That would be another guy. It's very, very few is my point. And so we all have to make a living, right? And each rider makes their own decisions what's best for them and their career and their family. And so, these guys saying that, these guys, RJ and Jordan, they should be moved up. This is bullshit. Well, they can eat a bag of dicks because those guys are doing the best thing for their family and their future and their career. And as long as they're playing by the rules, which now there really are no move up rules, because I think that the promoters have realized what's going on, it is what it is. The 250 class is its own thing. Obviously, everyone wants to get to that premier class, but look how stacked it is. It's almost 18 or 19 factory guys right now. Where are you going to put RJ and Jordan and all these guys that they want to push up? There's no room.
Yeah, no, it's a great point.
Anyway,
yeah,
that's my rant for the day, and I'll be quiet.
Just before you say something, Jeff, I was just going to say with that ping, it's a great point because obviously the MXGP guys, MX2 guys aging out at 23. And you think that's a whole career gone. If you had injuries, you've had,
That's a shit
you're
rule.
small, you're short, just things haven't gone your way for whatever reason. There's a lot of chat about that. And some of the guys I've spoken to, and it's just like, you're not going to get a factory ride at MXGP. So it's ridiculous, on a privateer setup trying to race against Hurlings, Fevra, Jeremy Seawer, Tim Geiser on the best equipment who have been doing it for a decade. So, and you don't have any Supercross experience because you've dedicated your life to motocross. And at 23, you kind of have to race a domestic championship. So they would love to have that longevity in their career, like the guys like RJ, Christian Craig, J Mart on that 250 class. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, you keep going, Jeff.
And hey, I got to run, boys. So I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks for having me on. It's been a blast. And I'll leave you guys with Jeff. I'll apologize ahead of time for any F-bombs. Yeah. Great chatting with you, boys. Have a good one.
No worries. You too, mate. Thanks for coming on.
He's going to pay for that comment when I get out of the car. You ever seen a midget duct tape to a pole? Yeah, you're going to be duct taped to a pole here pretty quick.
Just to touch on Ping's rant about the 250 class, I think if you're that good, you'll beat RJ and Jordan and Anstey and Jeremy Martin, and you'll beat those guys and you'll get that 450 ride. So I don't see, obviously, experience. You can't buy experience. You can't teach experience. But you're telling me that James Stewart was worried about Ping being an older guy when he came in 2002.
Ping did beat him one time. Ping beat him once.
Is that down to experience?
That was down to sheer will and terror. He rode way over his head, but he wasn't letting him pass him.
Sometimes experience it pays off, and you can't buy it. But like I said, if you're good enough, you'll make it happen. So I don't have an issue with those guys staying in the 250 class and earning a living. I'd rather see them out there than like try and move up, doesn't work, and then you never see them again. I think the 23 age limit in MX2 is awful. I think it's robbed so many decent MX2 riders of rides. I think Tommy Searle would have a lot more money in the bank, possibly even a couple world titles if he was able to stay down. I mean, people hit their prime at different ages, and 23 is not exactly old. And what you see happening is guys leaving MX2 and going to America, just because they're not ready for that 450, and because that 450 class is no joke. I mean, like Ping said, look at the guys. There's like 19 factory guys. Who the fuck in their right mind wants to jump in and have a crack at that? It's like if I'm 23 and I'm sort of knocking around that top 5 in MX2 in Europe, I don't fancy my chances against Hurling, Geyser, Seawer, and whoever else is out there. But against some people like Enzo Lopes, like Nate Thrashy, like people your own age, sign me up. But yeah, anyway, just to reiterate really what Ping said.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that a little bit. I mean, from a business standpoint, you're one stupid son of a bitch. If you're getting $400,000 a year factory ride in the 250s, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go pay to go out and ride my own and spend, $75,000, $80,000, $100,000 to go racing on a bike that's not going to make it into the top 10 if you're lucky, So just from a business standpoint, I don't give two shits what anybody would think of me staying in the class. I got a family to feed, So it kind of goes back to what I've been saying. I think you've got an arena that's only so big and you can only pack so many people in it, right? They need to expand the sport. Just like any business, you need to scale up. And if you don't scale up, you're going to die on the vine. So they need to bring in like an MX3 class into America, whether it's a 250 stock Supercross class where you could just do suspension, that's it, or something, like a spec class. But they need to have another class for the racers to where there's a championship behind it. The sponsors will get behind it. The teams will get behind it. There's rides for the guys, and it'd be maybe have that be the one where you can race 2, 3, 4 years, and then after that you're done, right? But it gives and then make the 250 just a full on national championship in Supercross, maybe, and then that kind of cuts down the cost to go 250 racing. You don't have an East and a West, but then you would have an East-West kind of spec class, and it gives those guys time to, I think that could be a good evolution for the futures, is to have that be like a spec class East and West, where you can bring these guys in for a couple of years to get their time. It lets some of these older guys in the 450 class, sail off into the sunset. The 250 guys can move up, and then it opens up seats in the 250 national class. I mean, but something's got to happen if they don't. And these guys ain't stupid. The guys at Feld and Davey and all those guys in MX Sports, they're not stupid. They've thought of everything 10 ways to Sunday, but I just think that's the way it's got to go. I mean, how else do you do it unless you start another series, which is not going to happen. But it's got to scale. They need to add a third class, which is great for us, because if they add a third class, we get more racing every night. So
Yeah,
that's kind of my thoughts on
it. Yeah, just to quickly touch on it once more, I do think they need to make the 250 Supercross just a 250 Supercross, scrap the East and West. I know Ping said you'll lose rides, but this isn't everyone gets a medal sport. I think that the best thing for the sport is to have your 450 Supercross, 250 Supercross, and then have like an East Futures and then a West Futures. I think would be a good idea. I think you might lose a couple riders, but for the sake of the sport, you want the best guys out there every week battling it out. Not, is it East this week? Is it West this week? For a more casual fan, it's not that straightforward. For us, it's as simple as black and white. But for other guys, when they watch it this weekend and they're wondering where the fuck's RJ Hampshire, who's this number 38? Why is he got a blue plate with a yellow number? What's going on? I just think you could do away with all of that if you just had the 250 class. I mean, they do it for the Nationals, so why not do it for the Supercross?
Yeah, it creates a longer road into those factory positions in the 250 and 450. So at the end of the day, you'd have a bigger pool. I mean, it's a smart move, and I think you get more people into it, because I'm a junkie, dude. If I got more gate drops every night, I'm stoked, and I think a lot of people feel that way, and so you kind of, I don't know if they call it a pro-am class, a spec class, or whatever, but I think you keep the bikes less powerful, kind of like bring their amateur bikes into Supercross. It'll force them to take different lines, and they're not all going to hit the triple every time, and run the whoops. They'll be jumping through, so it'll create different racing for us fans to watch, but it'll teach those guys to ride different, and then evolve into the higher speed, bigger engines and stuff like that. I think putting caps on, kind of like NASCAR did with the restrictor plate, kind of putting caps on the power output. Obviously give them the best suspension in the world. Let them get what they can get their hands on. But as far as motors, I think they ought to run it a stock engine class, and let them go for it. I mean, these bikes are so good stock anyway, that most of them can pull it, and no second injectors, none of that stuff. Just let them learn on, step it up, kind of, I wish they had 125s. If Honda and Cowie made a 125, let them run 125s. I mean, they'd sell more tickets if they brought back the 125 class just for the sound of the two strokes, but that's not going to happen. The R&D for it would just be millions and millions of dollars. None of the manufacturers are going to do. So next best thing in my mind is make a stock class and have stock racing, whether it makes the TV package or not. But for the people in the stadium, it'd be freaking rad. So
yeah, it's cool conversations to have.
Yeah, and while we're on it, I just want to give my thoughts on the 250 class. To me, Deegan's the odds-on favorite, injury or not. The kid's just a bulldog. I don't see him not being right up front. I've been watching some of the videos of him, and he's still flying. He's going to have some of the best medical care and trainers in the world taking care of him. So I'm not too worried about him. If they let him go racing, he's not going to go out there and just ride around and put in laps. He's going to go out to win. And the other guys like Hammaker, that's like Ping nailed it. My dark horse is Jet Reynolds and Hammaker. if anybody remembers, I mean, look how Hammaker did in the Outdoor Nationals. He came out swinging after being off the bike forever. And the Outdoor Nationals aren't really Seth's cup of tea. Seth's a point and shoot, get some Supercross racer, and he was AMA Rookie of the Year in what, 21, and he can ride Supercross. And I talked to his mechanic yesterday, and he was smiling. They got something under the hood this year. So really looking at Seth. And then, yeah, I mean, Jet was the winningest amateur we've ever had, and he knows how to ride a bike. I mean, the kid's just sick when it's his riding skills. So I think being at Club and Mike and all those guys and Haas and all those guys making a man out of him, and making him get his shit together, I think the kid's going to be dangerous, So we need guys like that to come in and stir the pot up in the East and not have it be a snooze fest with Deegan going out and waxing everybody. So that's my thoughts on it.
Oh, it's going to be so good. And there's a lot of hype about Bennick obviously flying as well heading into it. So it'll be really cool to see how he fares. Obviously back to the 450 class. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts. I'll start with you, Brad. On AP, the red plate holder still. Obviously he's returning to Detroit. We're obviously the scene of that disaster when he was leading last year and he crashed. But yeah, he's just sort of confirming how good he is, really. This season, he's just looked so good, holding his own against all these past champions and heavy hitters. And he's really sort of keeping up with their pace. He's not dropping back at all. I guess all the indicators are really positive that he can keep up this momentum and just keep making strides. It's really cool to see what the year's been for him so far. Obviously got that win, and that's just so good for the sport. Everyone loved it. All his competitors loved it. All the fans loved it. And he certainly played on it this weekend, didn't he, Jeff, with some pretty cool little bits and pieces he was doing with the light on the bike and, the cool baseball jersey and this kind of stuff. So obviously not many people would have probably had him ahead of Sexton at this point. So your thoughts on them, Brad, and then I'll pass it over to you, Jeff, to talk about AP and then Sexton, if you like.
Yeah, like he said in his post-race, in one of his post-race interviews, he said, but it's harder to keep the red plate than it is to get it. And yeah, I mean, he kind of not locked into the podium, but obviously Anderson's penalty is what ended up chucking him up on the podium. But sometimes you've just got to be in the right place at the right time. And he said his starts are a lot better, a lot more consistent. And sometimes if you can just get good starts, keep putting yourself in good positions, things fall your way. And if it's your year, it's your year. You don't need to be the fastest guy to win the title. It's happened time and time again where a guy, the cards just fall his way. And the way that happens is you just put yourself in good positions. You get good starts, you stay out of the shit. And if the best you can do is a fourth that night, you take a fourth, and maybe next weekend you come out and you get a second and you gain more points back. And it's just a bit of a to and fro throughout the year. But sometimes that's all you need to do. And yeah, like you said, I think most people wouldn't have had him ahead of Sexton at the moment. I think it's really got to be playing on Chase's mind that he's kind of left Honda because he wanted to be the number one guy somewhere, and he's moved in and he's the number two guy again. So that's got to be playing on Chase's mind. And yeah, I mean, AP, I don't think he's the sort of guy that's going to succumb to the pressure. He's just relishing in the moment. He knows what he's doing whilst in the moment. He's playing on it, and I think that works well for him. He's enjoying it, and it seems like a happy AP is a dangerous AP. So yeah, Detroit this weekend, like you said, last year just utter heartbreak. It would be awesome to see him get a win in Detroit. But I think if he just sticks it back up on the podium again, and just keep this thing rolling, just keep ticking off the rounds.
Yeah, after the race, I was standing there with Roger DeCoster, and AP come riding up, and Roger was like, "Good job, cowboy." And I caught a little soundbite that was kind of cool. And Aaron said, he goes, "Man, we've done things in the last 4 races that I've never done before." And that kind of stuck with me. It was like, well, if he's saying that, if this is an AP we've never seen before, which it is, but he realizes that, and he's pumped on it, and he's got Roger DeCoster pumped on him. He's not worried about the boss man thinking he sucks. You know, he's just got all that energy and momentum behind him. The fans. I mean, just imagine every rider in the sport and every fan in the sport just going, yeah, AP, you know, that there's a lot to be said for that. And his confidence is on all time high. If you watched how he rode at Anaheim, he was charging hard. He was coming through the pack. It wasn't old AP where he was kind of settling in and like, hey, I'm in fifth, right on. This is good. No, he wants top step. He got a taste of it and he wants it, you know, but that's the beauty of this. Look at Cooper Webb, you know, the dog's in the hunt again. Everybody knows that round 4, if Cooper Webb gets a win, that's bad news for everybody else. You know, he tends to set sail when he heads east. So, I think Coop's going to surprise a lot of people. Chase, I think, you know, he looked great in one of those motos, got a win, but, I don't know if it's a headspace thing or just getting used to the team, the bike and everything else. And if this is a reset year for him, but I don't count him out for the title either. You know, he could light up and take off and give everybody hell. So the 450 class is just kind of a crapshoot. We've only had one real race in my mind. The Triple Crown's a point shakeup. We know that going into a Triple Crown. We had 2 mud races. So we had one real race and then 3 Yahtzee races where it's like anything can happen, you know, and now we're going into Detroit. Now I think we're Detroit, and I think after we get through Glendale, we're really going to see who's stepped up and who's going for the gold, who really is going to, when we get back to the normal stride of the sport, I think we're going to see who's going to come out on top. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Well said. And just obviously moving back to Prado as we sort of have a couple more topics to discuss as we wrap this one up pretty soon. But yeah, Prado is just another good performance. He keeps sort of, you know, just doing what he has to do, riding well, riding fast, riding pretty sort of measured and safe, and doesn't mind holding his own against, you know, some of those heavy hitters and passing them back and battling. And he's just getting more comfortable. I noticed he said that it was particularly intense, that Triple Crown format, which is obviously something that he'll be looking to adapt to as he probably heads over full time next year. But certainly make his presence felt and left a mark as he heads back to MXGP. And I guess all things considered, the stint was pretty successful. He got out there safe, healthy, won a heat race, had some great top tens, and all things considered pretty positive, wasn't it, Brad?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're Jorge Prado, you've got to be pretty stoked. Sort of ending your little 4-run stint there in the top 10 in points with some big heavy hitters behind you like Lawrence, Cooper, Cincerillo, Stewart, Craig. Like you're beating some decent guys. It was getting good starts this weekend at the Triple Crown, and yeah, I think it's positive for him coming over next year with a much more sort of in-depth off season where he can really sort of knuckle down. Hasn't got to worry about going like back to practice in the sand and stuff. He can really sort of focus on the Supercross and get really dialed in. So I think he's got his heart set on going back there next year. I think if Gas and KTM Group signed off on it, I think he'd probably just stay there now. I'm not really expecting a great deal from him this year in the GPs. Just don't really feel like his heart's in it. Like if it comes down to like a battle of the death type thing, I just feel like he's done what he wanted to do. He's accomplished his main goal, and now he's got his sights set on the States. So yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised if the GPs allow it and there's a couple off weekends to see him maybe jump in for a few nationals here and there.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. You know, he's probably, you know, if his heart's really set on Supercross, do you really risk it all to win another world championship when your heart's set on going and doing the Supercross series next year? And, you know, how much time is he going to practice GPs? Because if I were him, I'd have a plot of land and somebody coming over from America to build me a Supercross track out in the middle of nowhere with some big high fence and trees where nobody knows about it. And I'd be getting a head start on Supercross and going and filling out my contract and come in here and make Denny Stevenson eat some crow, because Denny was over here. He'll want to get a top 10 and da da da. And I hope he sends him a love letter. Dear Denny, how do you like your crow served? I'll have it delivered. Hope you like it cold. But Denny had to eat his words. But hey, that's good. We all love Denny. But I think it was rad that he came over here, and to get somebody from Europe that big a caliber that's willing to just say, hey, I'm going to race Supercross. That's great for the sport over here, right? It kind of sucks for the GP guys. They're kind of like, oh man, that sucks, but it gives somebody else room to step up. And I really hope Hurlings, before he retires, decides to come over here and play ball too. I think that guy would put the world on its head if he came over here and dedicated himself to Supercross. If you get Prado over here and you get Hurlings to jump over here, man, that would just be so rad. I mean, those two dudes, great riders, and Hurling's such a big personality, and he's not afraid of anybody, and he'll tell everybody that. That's what I like about him. He's not afraid to say what he's got to say. So I dig the shit out of him, But yeah, I think Brad probably nailed it on what's going to happen with Prado. There's probably a lot of green getting thrown his way to come back here too. And I'm not just talking money, but yeah, he's definitely going to light the world on fire next year, when he's got a full season of training. And I really suspect that he's probably already put in the order to have a Supercross track built somewhere in Europe that he can go test and get some bikes and stuff like that. So
yeah, there's a lot of talk about other teams obviously wanting to pick up his services for next year too. So we might see him in AMA Supercross next year, not on a KTM group bike. So it'll be quite interesting to see how that plays out, because there'll be a lot of people obviously vying for his signature, won't there?
Yeah. They're playing let's get Prado ball. I mean, one, he's just a star, and good looking dude, great personality, well spoken. Came over here, did well. You'd be stupid not to want to pick him up, especially with some of these other guys taking off. How much time does Bam Bam have left? Does he stay around? I think he signed a couple more years, but is he really going to stay that long? What happens with seeing Cirillo? Tomac's probably going to walk away at the end of this year, so there's going to be some big seats opening up, and I think those guys would be smart to give a guy like Prado a chance. I mean, we could look into our 250 pool, but when you got a world champion coming over who was getting top tens and winning heats at his just say, hey, I want to just test the waters and see how I do phase of life. I think you'd be an idiot not to throw some money at him to come ride for you, and just the star power alone.
Yeah, I think KTM Group would be absolutely insane to let Jorge go. Like you said, I think Bam Bam, he's sort of reaching the end of his career now. He's not going to be around a great deal longer. I mean, your Husky team this year it's not gone according to plan whatsoever. KTM, they're pretty set over there, obviously with Sexton and AP. But yeah, I think, like you said, Tomac, chances are this is probably going to be his last season. Since Cirillo is sort of hovering on, is he going to keep the factory ride? Is he not? There's certainly seats open, but there's seats there, but I think KTM Group, they'd be crazy to let him go. I mean, Jorge rides very similar to Jet does in motocross. He's very light on the bike, very technical. So he's going to be a title contender in the Nationals, like instantly first year.
That's what I'm looking forward to seeing, is those two just go at it.
Yeah, it's not like you're taking a punt on some, like I said, some MX2 guy who's got a couple of wins here and there. This is like a multi-time MX2 world champion, MXGP world champion, arguably the best starter in the world. He's going to put himself in good positions in Supercross and in the Nationals. So yeah, I think I'd be very surprised if Gas just don't open the checkbook and just leave it blank.
Yeah, he's definitely been a man in demand, and there's so much hype. I guess a lot of those US fans are going to be following Prado and MXGP because they've got the name out there and they want to see how he goes because obviously he's a really likable character and speaks really well in the sport, covers just both languages, English and Spanish, and so much the world's just sort of been captivated by this sort of the adventure he's had this year and how well he's done. But before we wrap this one up, lads, any final thoughts for you? Start with Jeff. Obviously, Billy made the main. How cool was that? And anything else you'd like to talk about from A2, and then you can have your say on that too, Brad.
I was just going to say that, man. We didn't touch on Billy. The old man did it, dude. God, I was stoked on that. And I was, I left the mine Friday night at 8:00, drove to Salt Lake City, which is about 4 hours. And I got about 4 hours sleep, got on a plane, flew from Salt Lake, went home, took a shower, put my crap on, and hauled ass to the race. And Billy was out at practice, and I was down in the front row filming, and he stopped right in front of me. I started yelling at him, and he looked over and he saw me, and he's like, "Yeah, you made it," and he kind of jokingly said I was his good luck charm, and I go, "Man, I hope this doesn't backfire and I jinx him," but I can't tell you how stoked we were. We ran over there after he qualified. I was over at the Rockstar tent, and I ended up they were going out, and I'm like, well, they got it on TV, I'm just gonna watch it here. So I sat with Guillaume Perez, who, by the way, I like the hell out of that kid. That kid's freaking rad, dude. And him and Casey Cochran. So I sat there and watched it with him, and I was like, man, what's it like to see a guy who's old enough to be your daddy out there getting it? And Casey was like, man, that guy could be my grandpa, and so I mean, the whole Rockstar tent, everybody was just like, yeah, just stoked on Billy. So as soon as the race was over, I ran over, and a bunch of people gathered around, and it was just so awesome to see. I mean, he looks like Mike Tyson ragdolled him and beat the living shit out of him after San Diego. The back of his legs black and blue. He's got a black eye, and the old man just took a beating, dude. Like Mike Tyson just pummeled him, and then to go out, and I said, hey Billy, you realize you picked the worst race to make the main? You got to go out and do this 3 times tonight. He just kind of looked at me like, no kidding, and boy, he was sucking wind at the end of that, during that third main. I think he was just happy to get it over with. And I talked to him on Sunday morning. He goes, dude, I'm hurting. I'm pretty sore, but dude, just great. He's got a week off. He can do some therapy, and we're gonna see him at Glendale in a dry race. Let's see what Billy does with this. I see him making another main event. I think it's gonna just boost his confidence. It gives John a week to go through the bike and get it dialed again. I think they got some funding to get some more equipment and help him out a little bit, which will definitely be good. But yeah, I mean history was made. We've got a 40-year-old who came out of retirement and qualified for a frickin' Supercross. That's just badass, dude. So Billy's a legend, the legend, the long-haired legend of Billy Laninovich. I mean, that one's going to stick with me. And I'm just, as a media guy, I'm so stoked that he let me be a part of it. And like from day one, and just kind of go out with all the practice and just kind of talking to him about what's going on in his mind, and to be just a little smidge of it is pretty freaking cool, man. And we got his back, and I hear rumors that he's thinking about racing next year too. So if he stays healthy and he gets the rust off, I mean, he's crazy, dude. Billy's crazy. I think he'd do it. I don't put anything. If he may be already thinking, I wonder if I could qualify at 50 now. He's nuts. So, but yeah, just that's about all I got for the rest of the week. Is just Billy. I hope the whole world's just like, Billy.
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't know Billy half as well as obviously you do, but yeah, I mean, it's anytime someone like an older rider decides to come out of retirement and have a crack at it, it's always good when when it turns out well. It's you never want to see it go tits up. So yeah, it's definitely cool that he got in the races, and hopefully obviously he's got a couple of weeks now to rest up from his trip down the landing of the finish jump for the other week. But yeah, it'd be good to see him back out there when we pick the West back up in a few weeks at Seattle. But yeah, I think I don't think there are any massive surprises really from A2. I guess Kitchen was a lot more consistent and just solid than I kind of expected him to be. But yeah, just got good starts, put himself in good positions, and everyone else just made the mistakes around him. I think if you're Shimoda and Honda, you're kind of scratching your head a little bit. It's not really gone as you would have liked. Like if you just said to them that you're not going to get a podium in the first 4 rounds, they probably would have said you were crazy. But he's just not getting out of the gate, and it's costing him big time, like big time. It's and there's no excuse really. I mean, you're on a factory HRC Honda. You should be able to get around the first corner in the top 5. I mean, I don't think there's any question that he's got the pace, but not enough pace to start in 12th. But yeah,
he's going to find himself as a privateer pretty quick if he doesn't figure it out. They're going to really take him on next year.
That's it. I mean, you only get so many opportunities at a factory ride, and it's a slippery slope when you're not performing. They'll forget you pretty darn quick. It'll be sayonara, Joe-san. But hopefully not. Hopefully he takes these few weeks now, resets, and comes out swinging. And I'd probably suggest maybe practicing his starts.
Yeah, I don't think many people would have had him 30 points back off the leader at this point, that's for sure. So, yeah, the skill, the talent, it's all there. It's just piecing it together definitely now. And obviously, a little bit of adjustment to the team, but that program's excellent, as we've seen in the past. So, hopefully, he can get it sorted ASAP because he's such a good rider and probably the man that I would have had as probably the title pick heading in, to be honest. And how especially he was looking so good in Paris Supercross, and that was sort of just an exhibition, but it was sort of a nice little precursor, and it hasn't quite panned out. But, yeah, I guess before we wrap this one up, lads, any final thoughts on what's happening with Whiskey Throttle this week, Jeff? And also, Brad, you can then sort of give us a little rundown on the testing stuff you've got coming up and how exciting everything is for both you lads. So I'll start with you, Jeff.
Yeah, we're just cranking, trying to build our social media up. We're firing on all cylinders right now and doing that, filming. We're out here filming this rad KX today. That thing, it was cool going over and having Mitch tune on the bike yesterday with Schneike. That was fun going over there yesterday and spending a couple hours at PC doing that. I'm gonna kind of hang at home the next couple days, and then Thursday morning at 6:45, I'm wheels up to Detroit, and I'll be out there Thursday, come home Sunday, and come home for a couple days, and then go back out to Phoenix, and then from Phoenix I take off and I'm going to step away for a while. I'll still be doing all the social media stuff, but I'm on a couple month turnaround at an oil refinery up in Washington. I'll be back on boots on the ground for the Seattle Supercross, and then hopefully I'll be able to finish up and hit Nashville through Salt Lake City, boots on the ground. But yeah, we're firing, man. We got a lot of cool stuff we're working on. Site Lab and Riders meetings back. We've got our East Coast affiliate. He came out this weekend and just to come to Anaheim and check everything out. And we filmed a bunch of Collected, that series coming back. And we kind of broke him in on how we do things at the races. So we'll have our East Coast guy out there for Daytona and Nashville and a couple of those rounds. I'm hoping he'll hit Indy as well. And so, yeah, the group's just growing by leaps and bounds. We're getting traction everywhere we go. Like everywhere I went on Saturday night, I'd run into people, Whiskey Throttle, man, you guys are crushing it. You're crushing it. And it felt good because we've been busting our ass. I mean, last year was a rough one, man. And we just decided to put our heads down and just go all in, and we're doing it. And we're starting to see the dividends of our hard work. So, and it's been rad teaming up with you guys and, collabing on these pods and sharing the stuff that we're doing in America with you guys over there. And you guys are sharing your GP stuff. I can't wait to see all the how to watch the GPs. And as soon as you guys post that and tag us, we're going to put it up and get people over here watching and cheering for Jorge and all the other boys over there, because those dudes are straight badasses. So, we're just going to kind of touch on all bases in the off-road racing. Bruce is going back next weekend to start racing in GPC. He got off that Kickstart Kenny program, and we got him on a Honda now. So He just got Factory Connection just built him a sweet CRF 450. We went through and did a bunch of stuff to it, and Ziggy personally did the suspension for Bruce, and Bruce rode it yesterday, and he's like, "Oh my God, this thing is sick." So he's going to be pitting right next to the SLR Honda tent, and I expect some good results out of Bruce, because I told him if he does a top 5 again, I'm just going to disown him. You know, he already cut his hair off, and then he was riding a kickstart bike. I think he was having a midlife crisis, but he seems to have got his senses back, and he's not being a dumbass anymore. So he's on a Honda with some of the best suspension you can get out there with the Factory Connection, and we expect results here at Whiskey Throttle. So he'll get flogged if he doesn't cut the mustard. I don't put up with that shit. You know, we get results here. I'm the driver in the group, and if you screw up, you're going to answer to me. So just great stuff. But hey, one thing I want to talk about. There's this girl named Moto KK. You guys got to check her out on Instagram. It's Moto KK. She rides for SLR Honda. She won the NGPC Women's Championship last year. She's in the lead this year in NGPC. She's killing it in works. And I'm out here watching her spin laps while we're on the phone. This girl will make so many dudes look like bitches out here. It is unreal, dude. This chick rips. And I'm like, man, I want to call Samuels. Mark Samuels runs that team. Dude, have her start riding Supercross. If any chick has ever been able, Vicky Golden qualified, but I would love to see this chick give a go at racing Supercross and be the first chick to qualify for a main. I'm going to throw that out into the world right now, and hopefully that energy gets out there. But you guys got to check this chick out. Follow her and watch her ride. I mean, Ping was saying how fast she is, and like dudes that should just be waxing her, she was all over him like a fat kid on a cupcake, dude. Dude, she's badass. So just throw that out there for you guys in America to check this girl out. She's an absolute badass, dude. So that's all I got.
Yeah. Speaking of girls, my eldest just turned 2 yesterday, and we got her a little Revy, which is basically like a Stay Sick. Little 12-inch thing, and yeah, she's flat out up and down the road already. So we thought we were going to be having to hold her and twist the throttle and stuff, so her hour's done. But yeah, she took to it like a duck to water. So maybe in about, I don't know, 15 years time, we'll get in touch and we'll see if we can get her qualified for A1. We'll see how we get on. But yeah, we've got back on the testing thing. I'm working on a bit of a 5 sort of modifications I like to make to my bike. So the Yamaha 450 before I go racing. Working on that little article. So that should be out in a couple of weeks. Nothing, not like drastic things like engine work and ignitions and all that sort of stuff. Just sort of like a whole shot device, pegs, grips, sort of general things that I just like to change before I go racing. We've got quite a good array of kit as well to test, but I'm just trying to wait for the weather to sort of pick up a little bit. I don't really want if I'm testing kit, I want like nice pictures, you know. I don't want to be paddling around in shit and making the kit not doing the kit justice. So yeah, we've got quite a bit of kit to test. Twin Air have got a new product coming out soon as well, which they're sending out, so that should be pretty awesome as well. And yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I'm building up quite the list of stuff. So yeah, we should be flat out with the testing. Hopefully, sort of bump the numbers up and the views and stuff on the vids and everything. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But yeah, this weekend FMF and the Bell Moto 10 and also the Moto Click suspension tool. So that should be pretty awesome.
Nice one, lads. Exciting times ahead. And before we wrap this one up, we'll just thank the sponsors in Golf Racing Fuels, Fly Racing, Monster Energy, Fox, Parts Europe, Scott, Bell Helmets, Acherby's, ASG Performance, Kawasaki UK, KTM UK, O'Neill, Whole Shop Motorhomes, Yamaha, and of course Even Strokes for all their incredible support. As without them, none of this would be possible. All right, cheers again, lads. All the best and have a great week.
Oh yeah, thanks guys.
Nice one. Cheers, Ed.